The beauty presents an indeterminate concept of understanding, the sublime an indeterminate concept of reason. But above all, it will confer an inestimable benefit on morality and religion by showing that all the objections urged against them may be silenced forever by the Socratic method, that is to say, by proving the ignorance of the objector. Settle for sure and universally what conduct will promote the happiness of a rational being. Simply to acquiesce in skepticism can never suffice to overcome the restlessness of reason. Nothing is divine but what is agreeable to reason. Act only according to that maxim by which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Without man and his potential for moral progress, the whole of reality would be a mere wilderness, a thing in vain, and have no final purpose. Man must be disciplined, for he is by nature raw and wild. Sexual desire is fastidious. Nature has given it strength, but it must be restrained by modesty. We are enriched not by what we possess, but by what we can do without. Genius is the ability to independently arrive at and understand concepts that would normally have to be taught by another person. There is something splendid about innocence, but what is bad about it in turn is that it cannot protect itself very well and is easily seduced. Lithuanian nation must be saved, as it is the key to all the riddles, not only philology but also in history, to solve the puzzle. Human reason, in one sphere of its cognition, is called upon to consider questions which it cannot decline as they are presented by its own nature, but which it cannot answer as they transcend every faculty of the mind. Human beings are never to be treated as a means, but always as ends. Act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, never merely as a means to an end, but always at the same time as an end. Act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. For peace to reign on earth, humans must evolve into new beings who have learned to see the whole first. The light dove, in free flight cutting through the air, the resistance of which it feels, could get the idea that it could do even better in airless space. Likewise, Plato abandoned the world of the senses because it posed so many hindrances for the understanding, and dared to go beyond it on the wings of the ideas, in the empty space of pure understanding. In the kingdom of ends, everything has either a price or a dignity. What has a price can be replaced by something else as its equivalent. What, on the other hand, is raised above all price, and therefore admits of no equivalent, has a dignity. Skepticism is thus a resting place for human reason, where it can reflect upon its dogmatic wanderings and make survey of the region in which it finds itself, so that for the future it may be able to choose its path with more certainty. But it is no dwelling place for permanent settlement. Such can be obtained only through perfect certainty in our knowledge, alike of the objects themselves, and of the limits within which all our knowledge of objects is enclosed. In all judgments by which we describe anything as beautiful, we allow no one to be of another opinion. Space and time are the framework within which the mind is constrained to construct its experience of reality. It is beyond a doubt that all our knowledge begins with experience. How then is perfection to be sought? Wherein lies our hope? In education and in nothing else. Dignity is a value that creates irreplaceability. The two things fill the mind with ever new and increasing admiration and awe. The oftener and more steadily we reflect on them, the starry heavens above and the moral law within. An action to have moral worth must be done from duty. Laziness and cowardice are the reasons why so great a portion of mankind, after nature has long since discharged them from external direction, natura liter mearens, nevertheless remains under lifelong tutelage, and why it is so easy for others to set themselves up as their guardians. It is so easy not to be of age. If I have a book which understands for me, a pastor who has a conscience for me, a physician who decides my diet and so forth, I need not trouble myself. I need not think, if I can only pay. Others will easily undertake the irksome work for me. That the step to competence is held to be very dangerous by the far greater portion of mankind. But although all our knowledge begins with experience, it does not follow that it arises from experience. From the crooked timber of humanity, a straight board cannot be hewn. Two things fill the mind with ever-increasing wonder and awe. The more often and the more intensely the mind of thought is drawn to them, the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. The reading of all good books is like a conversation with the finest minds of past centuries. The death of dogma is the birth of morality. By a lie a man throws away, and as it were annihilates his dignity as a man. All our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason. Whereas the beautiful is limited, the sublime is limitless, so that the mind in the presence of the sublime, attempting to imagine what it cannot, has pain in the failure but pleasure in contemplating the immensity of the attempt. The people naturally adhere most to doctrines which demand the least self-exertion and the least use of their own reason, and which can best accommodate their duties to their inclinations. If the truth shall kill them, let them die. Dare to know, have the courage to use your own intelligence. Treat people as an end, and never as a means to an end. It was the duty of philosophy to destroy the illusions which had their origin in misconceptions. Whatever darling hopes and valued expectations may be ruined by its explanations. Out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing was ever made. A categorical imperative would be one which represented an action as objectively necessary in itself, without reference to any other purpose. What might be said of things in themselves, separated from all relationship to our senses, remains for us absolutely unknown. Our age is the age of criticism, to which everything must be subjected. The sacredness of religion and the authority of legislation are by many regarded as grounds of exemption from the examination of this tribunal. But if they are exempted, they become the subjects of just suspicion, and cannot lay claim to sincere respect, which reason accords only to that which has stood the test of a free and public examination. The busier we are, the more acutely we feel that we live, the more conscious we are of life. It is the land of truth, enchanted name, surrounded by a wide and stormy ocean, the true home of illusion, where many a fog bank and ice that soon melts tempt us to believe in new lands, while constantly deceiving the adventurous mariner with vain hopes and involving him in adventures which he can never leave, yet never bring to an end. Thoughts without content are empty. Intuitions without concepts are blind. Two things fill my mind with ever-increasing wonder and awe, the more often and the more intensely the reflection dwells on them: the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. Enlightenment is man's emergence from his self-incurred immaturity. Our mathematics, natural science, laws, arts, even morality, etc., do not completely fill the soul. There is always a space left over reserved for pure and speculative reason, the emptiness of which prompts us to seek in vagaries, buffooneries, and mysticism for what seems to be employment and entertainment, but what actually is mere pastime undertaken in order to deaden the troublesome voice of reason, which, in accordance with its nature, requires something that can satisfy it, and does not merely subserve other ends or the interests of our inclinations. Man, and in general every rational being, exists as an end in himself, not merely as a means for arbitrary use by this or that will. He must in all his actions, whether they are directed to himself or to other rational beings, always be viewed at the same time as an end. If I have a book that thinks for me, a pastor who acts as my conscience, a physician who prescribes my diet, and so on, then I have no need to exert myself. I have no need to think if only I can pay. Others will take care of that disagreeable business for me. But only he who himself enlightened is not afraid of shadows. As nature has uncovered from under this hard shell the seed for which she most tenderly cares, the propensity and vocation to free thinking, this gradually works back upon the character of the people, who thereby gradually become capable of managing freedom. Finally, it affects the principles of government, which finds it to its advantage to treat men, who are now more than machines, in accordance with their dignity. All human cognition begins with intuitions, proceeds from thence to conceptions, and ends with ideas. Morality is not properly the doctrine of how we may make ourselves happy, but how we may make ourselves worthy of happiness. The schematicism by which our understanding deals with the phenomenal world is a skill so deeply hidden in the human soul that we shall hardly guess the secret trick that nature here employs. To be is to do. In every department of physical science there is only so much science, properly so called, as there is mathematics. Look closely. The beautiful may be small. He who is cruel to animals becomes hard also in his dealings with men. We can judge the heart of a man by his treatment of animals. Dare to think. Rules for happiness, something to do, someone to love, something to hope for. I had to deny knowledge in order to make room for faith. Have the courage to use your own reason. That is the motto of enlightenment. Nature is beautiful because it looks like art, and art can only be called beautiful if we are conscious of it as art, while yet it looks like nature. All false art, all vain wisdom, lasts its time but finally destroys itself, and its highest culture is also the epoch of its decay. Innocence is a splendid thing, only it has the misfortune not to keep very well and to be easily misled. We are not rich by what we possess, but by what we can do without. Experience without theory is blind, but theory without experience is mere intellectual play. Only the descent into the hell of self-knowledge can pave the way to godliness. One who makes himself a worm cannot complain afterwards if people step on him. Two things fill the mind with renewed and increasing awe and reverence the more often and the more steadily that they are meditated on: the starry skies above me and the moral law inside me. I have not to search for them and conjecture them as though they were veiled in darkness or were in the transcendent region beyond my horizon. I see them before me and connect them directly with the consciousness of my existence. Have patience a while. Slanders are not long-lived. Truth is the child of time. Ere long she shall appear to vindicate thee. Enlightenment is man's emergence from his self-imposed immaturity. Immaturity is the inability to use one's understanding without guidance from another. Marriage is the union of two people of different sexes with a view to the mutual possession of each other's sexual attributes for the duration of their lives. Seek not the favor of the multitude. It is seldom got by honest and lawful means, but seek the testimony of few, and number not voices, but weigh them. Better the whole people perish than that injustice be done.